Hey there, how you doing? Today we're going to talk about the oh so infamous importance of, drumroll please, strategy. Yeah, yeah, what's happening? Yeah, the strategy factor in Yu-Gi-Oh has been crippled a great deal. The reason why I say that is because the one thing that took away from strategy in this game was archetypes. That's when strategy kind of took, you know, how can I put it? That's when strategy kind of lost its muscle a little bit. Because people, well, these days in the game, people are relying too heavily on the monster's effects and not exactly using their own brain, you know. And I believe this comes into play when you ask yourself, like where does the luck factor come in and where does the skill factor come in when it comes to this game? Like, like for the people that use like Herald of Perfection, and they use like Herald's uh negation ability. You send one fairy type monster from your hand to the graveyard. You can negate a monster effect, a spell, or a trap, and that's a very um, helpful ability. It's very helpful, especially in tight spots. But it's like, is it wise to like negate certain cards? Because it's like the whole point of Herald of Perfection is just to negate everything. But sometimes it's important to use strategy and not negate everything, because not everything needs to be negated because it's not that big of a threat. Like if somebody was using, I would say, like Dark Hole, then yes, because you want to keep Herald of Perfection on the field. Uh, that's something that's worth negating. But if they're just activating, say, like some generic card, like, how can I put it? Like, if they're just activating some type of random spell, and it's not that much of a threat, then you can pretty much let that slide. In a sense that, it's not doing anything to your monsters, and anything else that comes after that, you can pretty much negate. Like you can just hold off from using Herald of Perfection's ability that much to the point where you just won't have any more, fairies in your hand. And like I said, Herald of Perfection, its ability is very resourceful, but at the same time, you have to ask yourself, are the things that I'm negating worth negating? Because you're only going to have only so many fairies in your hand. So it's very important for you to, ask yourself those questions. Or when, like people use using cards like Solemn Warning and Solemn Judgment, that's a lot of life points that you have to pay. I mean, granted that it can negate a lot of things, but it puts you at such of a an LP disadvantage. You don't want that in Yu-Gi-Oh. Like, you don't want to give your opponent the life point advantage by any means. So you got to ask yourself, is there any way that I can recover from all this all this life point payments? And there are cards for that. You have the Enchanted Javelin, which is one of my favorite cards. Like, I don't use the Solemn Warning and Solemn Judgment, but if I did, like, I would use Enchanted Javelin, because the moment your monster attacks, you can activate that card, or when your opponent's monster attacks, you can activate that card, and you can gain life points back, or at least just enough to recover from that payment that you made. But strategy mainly comes in around how you build your deck, and you have to ask yourself, does the monsters, well, I'm gonna do the monsters that I have in my deck, is there enough synergy amongst them, the spells and the traps, to where I can make something happen? And if it does get this, and if this one particular thing I'm trying to do gets stopped somehow, is there any way that I can recover from that? The main thing about strategy is you want to go into a duel knowing how to pull this off. I mean, yes, there's always going to be the luck of the draw. You're always going to have the luck of the draw. But the skill really comes in play when you have the cards in your hand, and you have to ask yourself, what can I do with these cards, like, to the best of my abilities at the moment, until I'm able to draw what I want or need. And yeah, it all comes down to you knowing how to use what you have, like, when you don't have what you have. I know it's kind of a crazy way to put it, but I guess another way you can look at it, well, another helpful tip is to try to put see, I'm getting lost for words. You put the least amount of cards in your deck, like no more than 45. Because you want your deck to be as thin as possible, and the minimum amount of cards you can have in Yu-Gi-Oh! In a deck is 40. And that's exactly how many I try to put in my deck. Because like, my chances for like, pulling the cards that I want will be a lot higher than yours. And yeah, like I said, you just gotta build around what it is you're trying to like, execute or shut down on your opponent's side, of course. Like, what you're trying to shut down on your opponent's side. I'm really getting lost words right now. But yeah, and here's another important factor. This is very important. Every deck build will have a weakness. Every deck build will have it, no matter what you do. Every deck build will have a weakness. Some of them might have some more notable weaknesses, and others might have less notable weaknesses, but every deck build has a weakness that just cannot be avoided. That's the way this game was designed, because they don't want one deck build to have, so much power that, then they'll probably just get banned or something. But it's an old saying that you're only as strong as your weakest link, and in Yu-Gi-Oh! You have to build around that weakness. Like, in case of this weakness, in case I encounter this weakness in a duel, then do I have the proper cards in my deck at least, that can help me like recover from this weakness, this weak point. Is my weak point well guarded? So that's something else you have to ask yourself when you're like building a deck in, in Yu-Gi-Oh. But yeah, that was my little tip for the day, and my little video for the day, and I'll talk to you guys later. Two fingers.